Mm. Sam, I need to start recording, right?
Oh, I did.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So again, thanks for coming. Sharon is here today to help me monitor the chat, and I'm Sam, and I will be the one who will be presenting today. We're doing a series of 4. This one is budgeting with a calendar envelope system. So we're going to be talking about those. If you do want or need captions, this just tells you how to do that. So just find the closed caption button on the bottom of your Zoom window. And then depending on what your device is, you may see it, or you may have to look at the button with 3 dots. That's kind of at the end of your toolbar or taskbar. And then once you find that, you can toggle on the captions on or off, depending on what you prefer. So again, we are here because we wanted an opportunity when we're teaching to be able to have more time to dive a little bit deeper into some topics that we talk about. For example, both of us teach basics of budgeting, how to deal with your credit, that kind of stuff. And we'll often reference that, like, you should try tracking with a calendar, or maybe it would work for you to do this, but that's all we really get an opportunity to say. So we wanted to do this series to be able to talk a little bit more deeper into those subjects that we have. We always want to share this at the beginning, just some steps to creating a successful budget. And so, of course, set your financial goals, track expenses. So that's what we're really going to talk about today. Once you have an idea of what those expenses are, go ahead and prepare your spending plan. Then follow the plan. That's the tricky part. Then come back and look at that plan and decide, did we track our expenses correctly? Was there something that did show up that should have, or that happened this month? Were we way off track? Were we on a track? And then adjust that plan to see what that evaluation showed you. And then this is a never-ending cycle as you keep, setting financial goals or meeting, and then starting new ones. You're kind of restarting and doing more and more. So we're going to start with talking about the calendar system. And the calendar system is just really thinking about it's a way to track your finances, as well as thinking about due dates for bills. It's for people who really enjoy kind of that visual, a quick visual. It's super helpful to have that as well. You want to make sure on the calendar system, you're looking at your income as well as your savings amount, and thinking about your debt as well with that. It's also a great way to kind of, see what's ahead in your financial life. So oftentimes, if you've ever created a grocery list, you'll make inventory of your food, and maybe you'll even meal plan and think about what you're wanting to make that you can eat healthy and save some money on those food costs. If you don't know what's in your freezer, your fridge, and what to thaw out next, you're more than likely to just grab some junk food and throw off your whole plan. By seeing our expenses and our income visually, we can avoid those ugly surprises and have our finances organized to see where you may be able to streamline your process. Again, we want to think about our bills, our income, and our savings contributions, and have that reminder of what's coming up and what we are trying to plan for as well. So how do you make your budget calendar? The first thing is to write down all your expenses and organize by due dates. So if you have things that have the same date, the same amount of payments, examples are your housing, your health insurance, internet, phone bills, probably, to start with those. And then you're gonna also have those things that have the same date, but have varying amounts, like your utilities, maybe your credit cards, that kind of stuff. And then you also have the third category, which is a varying date. Unless you're very disciplined and always go shopping, on Mondays or a specific date, those would be things like groceries or gasoline. So you have a varying date, and you have varying amount of payments of when you have those expenses. And then you also have your semi-annual or infrequent payments. That could be insurance if you pay every 6 months instead of once a month, your vehicle registration, home maintenance, making sure you have those filters and that kind of stuff available, some website or streaming service subscriptions, different membership fees. So you still need a list of what are all those things so that you can start putting them into a calendar as well. You're also going to want your income amounts and when your paydays are, so that you can visually represent that. All wages and salaries for household contributors should be included in that. And then if you have any specific savings that you need to keep track of, you're putting money towards an emergency fund, maybe you have retirement that you isn't automatically coming out of your paycheck that you need to account for. And then you will also have your set aside savings. So things that you want to put money aside so that you have it when it comes up for your medical deductibles, those infrequent payments we talked about, and then any special events such as car or birthday or holiday or other cultural events or family events that you may have that's specific to your family. So this is all on, a sheet of paper. And if you've already done a little bit of tracking expenses, you may have these sorts of things listed. And then there's two things you can kind of do. So the first sample is just, take a calendar, and I realized this was March of 2022. So in this example, we have E and O. E gets paid every 2 weeks. So it's really easy to track theirs, and O gets paid, I believe, once a month. I'm trying to look for it. And so that's a little bit different, but it helps to know, like, if one person's getting paid every 2 weeks and one person getting paid once a month, like, when do those overlap? When does it feel like there's more? When is a good time to put money in set aside savings? Also, a lot of people use a calendar system, and not as much anymore, but if you're somebody who still likes to pay by check or go online and do it yourself instead of it automatically coming out, you might want to put like mail check by, the 2nd if it's due on the 15th or the 11th. Put pay online the day of or the day before, or that's an automatic withdrawal. Some people really want to know that. So like this example, their mortgage and car insurance is due on the 1st of every month. That's down there. They typically go get gas and groceries, every Friday to help simplify life. This is about what they spend. Every once a month, they do a big household run to like a Target or Walmart or someplace and get all the shampoos and toilet paper and paper towels and all those stuff. And it just is a good way to kind of visually see where your spending is at. This one's pretty basic. It's not color coded, and the next sample here, the one that I actually did is a digital example. So if you're in, a lot of online calendars, you can have multiple calendars. So you could make a financial calendar for yourself in that system. And like this one is color coded. So if it is an flexible expense, it's in blue. If it is a fixed expense, it's in red. If it's a income, it's in green. You can just color code however makes sense to you as well. Savings is included in the fixed expense, but that could also be its own color. Typically, savings is paying yourself first. And so you want to make sure that you have that in there as an expense. And then when you need that for something you were saving for, so medical deductibles, buying new glasses, back to school shopping, that kind of stuff, it's there and ready for you to use as well. So this is another way that people can do it. And both of these are preference on who you are and what you like to do and what other people who are involved in your finances in your household like to do. And these are just samples. They're pretty basic. This could get really, really full, as Sharon mentioned in the chat, with a whole bunch of items. And especially when you're first starting to track, you can also just use a calendar system to track and put down, like, today is February 9th and I picked up gas and it was this much. We paid daycare, it was this much. I put this much into savings. So there's multiple ways to use it. Do you want to share a resource? I found it last year and I think it's just super fun and very user friendly. Alabama A&M and Auburn Extension created this money management calendar. If you're asking why hasn't the University of Minnesota, it is intense to do this. So we're just there's this free to use. The website will be included in our follow-up email if this is something that interests you. But they also have money tips and tricks and that kind of stuff, as well as quotes. And then they also have, like, this here would be the top part of the calendar instead of the pretty picture, and additional unplanned expenses. So when you're first starting off trying to figure out how to budget, oftentimes we try to do just like, this is what I think we have, but I don't really know, like, it's February. What holiday is happening? Is there any holidays? Is there a kid's birthday? Is there, not spring break's not happening in February usually, but just things come up. And so this is a good way to put down all those expenses. So when you buy food and groceries, it has this tracking system to be able to understand, like, this is what I spent on food and groceries. This is what we spend on eating out, transportation. And then I like this because there's the others. So if there's things that are specific to you and your household, you can add them in as well. The rest of the stuff is pretty standard for everybody. The children's miscellaneous, if you don't have that, just write it out and put something down that you have. So that's like the top of your calendar already ready for you. And then the month page is a little different, but it shows you, when do you get paid? When do you put savings in? What is the planned amount that you budgeted for this month? And what did you actually spend? And what's the difference? So it helps you evaluate as you're using the calendar without having to do a whole bunch of extra work. It also shares your debts, your fixed and flexible expenses so that you can kind of see that. And then that top part, the category is just the overall amount I spent on groceries, but then I can look and see that I typically spend money on groceries every week or every 2 weeks or that sort of stuff. And then you can put in any notes or reminders. So this is, an already print, you can print them off yourselves and have it ready to go as a calendar. So you have, your own calendar that you make, a digital option, and then this one provided by Auburn and Alabama A&M universities. There are also apps that you can use that are, made for those people who like a calendar system but want it on their phone instead of if creating your own in your email system doesn't work. And so the 3 apps that I have found that have pretty good ratings and stuff were Pocketsmith, Calendar Budget, and Budget Calendar. Next week is all about apps, so we will talk a little bit more about these in depth. But those are just a few examples. We don't recommend, I won't say oh, you should always use Pocketsmith, because what I like is not the same as what Sharon likes or what the next person will like. So it's important to think about and try out what works for you. But like I said, next week we'll talk more about apps and give some pros and cons and go from there. So that is about using the calendar system. If you have any questions about it, feel free to put those in the chat, as Sharon said. But we're going to go on to the envelope system as well to make sure we get that covered. So these are 2 different methods to kind of see what works for spending, tracking, and that kind of stuff. The envelope system has been around since probably envelopes were invented. I'm thinking somebody had the idea to put some cash into an envelope and use it. And it's a very simple system. And it's that each expected bill or expense that you have for the month is just written on the outside of an envelope, and there's one envelope for each bill or expense. So if, I kind of did a quick idea of this, I spend $300 in groceries every month, beginning of the month, or when I decide, it could be the 15th of the month, if that makes sense, if you're paid once a month. But one point every day of the month, I go ahead and put in $300. And then as I go to the grocery store, I only use that cash that's in my envelope. And when I run out of that cash in that month, I'm done. I have to be creative with what's in my fridge and freezer and go from there. And if I have money left over, then that money gets rolled over into the next month, or some people will choose to put that money into savings in case they need it. So there's different ways to use that. Typically with the envelope system, there's different expenses we all have. So, some fixed expenses are those things that are always the same. So our rent or a mortgage would be a fixed expense that every month it's pretty much the same. We may not use an envelope for that because we might have to pay by check, or we might have to pay via credit card. And so we just go ahead and have that come out, and not necessarily that we need an envelope. Then we have our flexible expenses. So that could be our gas and heating, our, like I said, at groceries, those sorts of things, and other eating out, that kind of stuff. Those are the ones that are really helpful to use an envelope if you find yourself struggling to know what's going on. Then we also have some that are semi-annual and infrequent that happen. And so those could be those sorts of things that I talked about. such as our pet care or our car maintenance or our home maintenance and that kind of stuff. So the envelope system really works really well for those flexible expenses that are monthly, as well as some of semi-annual or infrequent. So if, a gift envelope, I'm going to set aside $50 every month for gifts. And then when a gift comes up, then I just go to the envelope, purchase that gift, and whatever money's left over is ready for that next thing. As you can see, there are some stars on here. So these are things that, working with clienteles and in our own lives, like envelope systems are helpful for. So groceries, like I said, eating out or other food, tobacco, alcohol, clothing, toiletries, beauty shop, recreation, all these sorts of things are good things to use an envelope system for. So again, how do you use it? It's pretty simple. You write that name of that bill or expense on the outside of each envelope. And then you go ahead when you have income in, however that works for you, put that cash in the envelope to cover that amount that is written on the outside. And then when that bill arrives or when you need money for that expense, remove it from the envelope and make the payment. Sometimes people will say, well, Sam, I just used my debit card because I forgot my envelope at home. And oftentimes when that happens, they will take out that cash and, put it into another envelope, or they'll take out that cash, put it back into their checking account, or just make a note with a receipt or something in their envelope that they've already spent that much money. So then the next month, if they spend $40 on groceries from their debit card, they won't take that $40 out for the next month. So there's ways to make that happen, because it does happen. And then again, it's nice when you're using a cash-based system, you will see that money, you physically are using that money, which for some people is really helpful instead of using a debit or a credit card, that you go ahead and put the receipt for each payment in the envelope. And if a receipt is not available, to just have a separate sheet of paper in there to put it in for future reference. Sometimes it's helpful because then you're able to look back and see why you are always short, or B, have a whole bunch of left over. It's just helpful to know what you're spending your money on, so you can look back at it. And as I kind of said, that like the big advantage, it is cash based. So we're physically seeing our envelope that started, with $300 in it, getting smaller and smaller, maybe not smaller and smaller, because we might have like a few $50 bills in there. But the amount decreasing, where we don't necessarily always feel that when we go to buy groceries on a card or a check base. So if some people just do better when money is cash based versus when it's electronically based. And there are some disadvantages. The first one is safety. Depending on where you live, your comfortable level, you may not feel that it's safe to keep a large sum of cash. If you're like me and have a tendency to I just grab my phone, it's got my ID and debit card in it. A cash-based system does not work because I hardly ever have cash. But if I was somebody who carries, an actual wallet or a purse or something like that, then it might be more easier to use. But, think about there are certain sums, that's why mortgage or rent, when you're talking about thousands of dollars, we don't want that just hanging out in a car until it's time to pay. So think about that too. Is this a system that's safe for you to use? There's also that temptation. You may use that cash for other spending instead of the bill or planned expense it is for. And then it also, for some people, that having to organize the money at the beginning of the month, or, the 15th of the month, whenever you do that, it may be difficult to keep envelopes organized and convenient for use, especially if there's multiple people who are, spending money for groceries or different items, like who has the envelope, where is it at, what did we do with it? Like those are things that we don't want to have to worry about either. There are also apps that can be used amongst people, and some of these are, like one user, and others are able to be connected to two people in the household or three people in the household can be part of the same app. So the ones that kind of use the envelope method as the basis of their app is envelopes, Envy, the envelope budget, Good Budget, Budget Planner, Simply Budget, and Money Tracker. Of all the apps, when it comes to like the calendar or the envelope system, the envelope system has quite a few apps. So there's a lot of other ones, but these were, like I said, kind of the top rated ones that are available for people as well. So thinking about, we did a very overview of our envelope system as well as the calendar system. And I don't remember if anybody actually said that these were systems they were using already or not. But just with those overviews, is it something, would one of these systems work for you, and why or why not? Stacy says she's already uses both. Yep, envelope system works great for groceries. I will say, Sharon and I, we work with people on finances all the time, not a surprise because we're financial capability educators. And I find it helpful for people who have children to use cash sometimes, because so many of the kids aren't understanding how money works because they just see a swipe and don't understand, like, there is a limited amount of money we have to spend. When they physically see the cash and understand, like, this is what it means to spend money and do those sorts of things. So
I think even as an adult, it's easy to forget how much money I'm spending when I'm just paying with my check card or a credit card, or even, electronically.
Mhm.
And so cash is just a great reminder of how much money you're actually, paying out, when you see
Yes.
that pile of money reduce, basically.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, Lauren, to choose one category to use as an envelope system, and fun money would be a really fun way to start.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate Anna saying, if you condition yourself to actually use them, then yes, both are helpful. And that's so true. It's like, deciding you're gonna eat more fruits and vegetables. You have to be disciplined to have them on hand. Same thing with our money. We have to, like, this is a system we're going to try out and use and discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I agree. It's, an envelope system. There are certain things that are easier, but yeah, as a lot of our shopping is done online. So that's where those apps can be beneficial to use for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shanisha says, I would use the calendar system. I think it would help my spouse to know the bills and budget a lot better. That's a really great point. It's something that's there for everyone to see. And so they don't need to wait for you to get home and, share your app with them or whatever. You can just go and look at it. And it just, sometimes for me, having a calendar in my hand as opposed to on the computer just helps me figure things out better too, So that might be the case for members of your family as well. So that's a really good point.
Yep.
And then CK says, I give my children cash and have them pay for small items that they want so that they get used to having physical money and seeing it go away. That way they understand money gained is still fun. Really great practice. And that works for me too. I'm way less likely to spend my money if I have cash, really, because just for that exact same reason. So good point, CK.
Yes. We will come back to the chat if you have more questions or comments you want to put in. We just want to make sure that we're able to let you know what else is coming up. And I know Sharon answered this, but in case others didn't see that, we do have, an opportunity for UMN well-being points, which may be why you are here. So there is an evaluation that is coming up. We'll put it in the chat as well as have it in the follow-up email in case you missed it or unable to do that. Or if for some reason you need a certificate of participation, you can also request that as well. Our evaluation is z.umn.edu, just /making sense evaluation. And again, some webinars will be following up with 30 days after the end of the series. So Thrifty Thursdays is part of the Making Sense evaluation. So it is possible you may get another one. And we also will send out the recorded webinar to you as well. And we do have other webinars coming up in all these different categories. So we do invite you to come and check them out and see what something that interests you to attend it. And just so you know, everything is recorded and those are sent out to participants. We do know things come up. So if for some reason you're unable to attend, you will get the recording as well. And